Hi there, Chris here with another fresh tip for you all. In this video, we are going to continue our look at painting the ADEPTA Sororitas from Mcfarlane Toys. And in this video, we're going to continue work on the head, or the helmet, I should say, not the head. As you can see here, we already have the part already to go from the previous video. We're going to get things started with light gray from Tamiya, whichever way you want to pronounce it, I guess. And just very straightforward, we're going to use this right out of the bottle, and very evenly we are going to apply this onto the surface. As basically this is just going to be the visor that we're going to apply this, and we are going to have to apply more than one coat, as you will invariably notice. And of course, what I don't quite show is that I also fill in the inner edges, the eyes, the underneath the helmet, and of course the helmet portion that goes up onto the top of the head, so to speak. But there you can see we have all ready to go. And so next we'll get started with some light gray and some flat white XF2. They both are from Tamiya. I'm going to use 2 drops of the light gray. I'm going to add 1 drop of flat white. Give it a quick little mix. And I'm going to use a detail brush here, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to just basically begin by painting the bolt heads and doing a edge highlight in a typical fashion where we are highlighting the models, kind of like what we do for miniatures. And on this, it's just basically, you know, going around the edges. And as I was doing this, I just, you know, wasn't 100% feeling it. And because you have to work kind of quickly, because the paint does dry quite quickly on the palette, it is, you know, it doesn't really quite show here, but basically what was end up happening was as I was cleaning my brush, I would use iso alcohol to clean my brush. And I guess I had too much alcohol in my bristles, and so it ended up pulling at some of the paint. It's up on the peak of the helmet itself, and I actually wasn't very happy about that, and it kind of, you know, bothered me. And I just wasn't happy with this whole edge lighting process to begin with, so I decided, you know what, let's just mask off these areas. So I'm going to take some silly putty here. And basically, I'm just going to mask off all the silver areas. So I just mask off that bottom portion of the helmet. I take little chunks, roll them into little balls, and then basically put them into the eye sockets, tiniest of little dollops of silly putty. And then, of course, I also mask off the top of the head as well, as you can see here. Very carefully, I just simply use the end of my brush to maneuver the silly putty around so that it's not totally in the way. I'm going to use a Renegade Chrome, some flat white, some Tamiya thinner, X20A thinner. It comes in big bottles like that, or even smaller bottles. And basically with this, I'm spraying it around 20 psi, and I'm just going to build the highlight up in a typical fashion where the light sourcing is above the figure. I initially was going to kind of, you know, lay it on the bottom portion, kind of going for a bit of a non-metallic, but then I decided against that, and I said, I'll lay it through the center, concentrate most of the color there, and then catch some of the rivets and the bottom corners, like kind of like where the cheeks are, so to speak. And basically that'll be it for that. And then just very quickly, I'm going to pull the masking off. The little clips there, you can see there the silly putty in the eyes. It's really easy to get that stuff out. You don't have to use any tools, just simply use the larger portion of the silly putty to simply grab and pull the excess away, and it comes right off. And it you can see there's some parts where the silly putty was obscuring some other areas. I'm not too worried about that. We're going to jump back into some flat white and just do a little edge highlight around the bottom portion of the eye sockets, as well as the top portion of the that white portion that goes up the forehead kind of thing. We're also going to put an edge highlight on there, and then of course I'm also going to catch the rivets as well. It's pretty straightforward, nothing terribly fancy going on here. Of course, you know, I had considered using some liquid mask to leave some of the metallics and create that illusion of the chipped paint and stuff like that. I decided against it, mainly because my intention is that once we move really along with this figure, that I'm probably going to swap out the head anyway. Clear green from Tamiya. Basically, we're just going to use our detail brush here and begin laying this into the eye sockets. We left the metallics in the eye sockets, and so I decided to use a clear color. I decided against using red for the eyes, as I don't know, I felt that the green would actually play a little bit better, especially when this figure is all said and done. And you can see it just lay a quick little coat, no thinners needed, just simply lay this in. Now you will leave brush strokes behind, but that's all right. I mean, if that's a huge concern for you, I mean, you could always do this by airbrush, or you could also just thin it out a bit and go for multiple layers. It does finish glossy, so that's actually a plus. And once that first layer was dry, which was only a few minutes later, I come in and apply a second layer, concentrating more on the upper portions of the lens so that we get lightly brighter color at the bottom of the lens and get a little deeper green in the higher portions, just giving us that bit of that transparency effect. It's kind of a dual effect going on here, with the metallics kind of reflecting out and bringing some luminance to it, and also the idea of that transparency in the lens as well. We're using shading gray here from Golden High Flow. I'm going to add a drop of Liquitex Flow Aid just to help with the way it flows around on the surface. It's the surface tension. And basically we're just going to essentially just do a black lining around this detail, this visor of the helmet. And so it's going to go into the under portions here along the, I guess, what would that be, under the nose, the upper brow. I also get a little bit of the upper lens as well. I'm not too worried about that because this is a transparency. It does finish glossy, so I'm not too worried. I'm also going to use it in the grill of the ear vents here. I don't know, the ear vents. I don't know what that is, but either way, we're using a bit there. Just really quickly use my finger to wipe it off, as the Tamiyas do finish with a very hard surface. You can see here it was a little bit broad on that brush stroke. I just simply wipe my finger across that surface really quickly, and it just feathers it out really nicely. And, you know, no fuss, no muss. Or no muss, no fuss. One of the two. Here you can see just simply basically doing more black lining, and really that's about it for that portion. We'll set that aside, give that plenty of time to dry. Usually I just use a hair dryer. We're going to use Turbo Dork Malum Malice. This is a really nice light green metallic, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reinforce that bottom effect on the lenses. I just want a little bit more intensity, and we could put quite a few layers down if we wanted to just really kind of build this brighter green metallic effect up, but I only do about, I think it's about 2 or 3, I think it's only about 2 little passes here. So I let this first little layer dry, and then I come in and I do another little layering. I'm also, you know, not laying it in too heavily, and the beauty of this paint is that it actually has a little bit of transparency to it, or translucency I should say, and so it actually is pretty easy to glaze up to the desired effect with this color. So it makes it very, very handy. You can see there's just a little tinge of that yellowish green at the bottom of the lenses. Finally, I'm going to come in with some technical art coat. Any gloss varnish will do. Art coat was the one I had on hand. I could just easily use Vallejo or, you know, Golden. I actually don't have any Tamiya. Maybe I'll have to pick some up. But as you can see, I just apply this fairly generously, no thinners or water needed, and basically let that dry, and then I'll apply another layer and get a nice slick looking surface. And you can see like the highly reflective. It gives us that nice little bit of translucent effect in the lenses. And of course, that is it for the helmet. We could also, you know, use some black lining around some of the panels on there. I didn't really feel it necessary. Again, we are not treating this quite like we do with miniatures, where we really want to go for high contrast just because of how big these surfaces are. And so I'm treating it more like scale modeling. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying this series. Big thank you to my patrons. Without their support, these videos would not be possible. If you're considering Patreon support, click the link in the description below. There are various tiers to support at, and a huge thank you to everybody who does. Take care of your brushes, and they will take care of you.